Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Iris is currently taking her nap and she's probably going to wake up literally within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and try to make this video as quick as possible. But today I'm going to be talking about the top breastfeeding tips that I have for you. And I just want to start this video by prefacing that these are just things that I wish I would have known or that someone would have told me to make my breastfeeding journey a little bit easier and to give me a little bit more confidence in starting my breastfeeding journey. It is not to judge or shame any other mom who did not do this, who, chose to formula feed, who stopped breastfeeding after trying to breastfeed. And, that's not the preface of this. These are just things that I wish someone would have told me that I had to learn kind of the hard way along my journey with breastfeeding. And, I feel like if another mom knew this, maybe it would give her a little bit more confidence and feel like she has a little bit more of a support system, and kind of just encourage her to keep going even though it gets rough. So my first tip is to understand that cluster feeding is normal. Okay, this is something that I just feel like, again, the lack of knowledge and the lack of support can really push moms to supplement when in reality they don't need to. So cluster feeding is when your baby just wants to be on your boob all day, every day, especially in the beginning stages. It can be very, very much of a lengthy time, that first month when, your body is kind of really just figuring out this whole breastfeeding situation, how much to produce, how much not to produce, how much is your baby drinking. But please just understand that cluster feeding is completely normal. Cluster feeding is completely necessary because that's your baby's way of telling your body, like, this is how much I'm gonna need in order to be able to keep me full, keep me satisfied. It does come in intervals, so it is a temporary thing. It's not gonna last forever. It may last a few days, maybe a few weeks, depending on you and your baby, but I promise you it is temporary. Just stick with it. If it's rough, I know it's rough, especially those long sleepless nights, but it is normal. It's not that your body is not producing enough. It's not that your baby is not getting enough. It is just your body having to adjust to be able to produce enough. So just listen to your baby's cues, put them on the breast as much as they want to, and it's gonna happen for you. My second tip has to go with tip number 1, which is to make sure that you're breastfeeding on demand. So a lot of times we hear that babies need to be feeding every 3 to 4 hours, especially in the beginning months. With breastfeeding, it's a completely different story. You can't compare breastfeeding with bottle feeding, specifically because you cannot measure exactly how much your baby is drinking in one sitting. So it could be that your baby is drinking off of both breasts and they're full a lot longer, and maybe they do reach those 3 hours in between milk sessions. Iris was not like that. Iris was a snacker, and even to this day she will still only feed off of one breast at a time, and that just meant that she would constantly want to be on my boob more, especially in the beginning. Once cluster feeding was over, she was still on my boob every hour and a half to 2 hours. Like, even now that she's 6 months, she's still feeding maybe every 2 to 2.5 hours. Like, that's just her schedule. And I feel like if I were to have put in my head, like, no, she needs to be eating every 3 hours, like, why is she so hungry, and started supplementing with formula or doing all of this stuff and just putting so much pressure on that 3-hour schedule, I probably wouldn't have made it this far into my breastfeeding journey. So again, trust your baby, trust your body, and breastfeed on demand. You cannot compare a breastfed baby to a bottle-fed baby's schedule. What's good about breastfeeding is that a baby can regulate exactly how much they want. So maybe they don't want to drink a full 2 to 3 ounces in one sitting. Maybe they just want an ounce right now, and then they'll have another 2 ounces in an hour or so. And that's completely okay. So give your baby that opportunity and just breastfeed on demand. Tip number 3 is going to be to pump on a schedule if that's something that you decide to do. So this is also something that I hear a lot of moms say, like, oh, I wasn't producing enough, or oh, I was pumping and then my milk dried up. It's very important, especially if you're going to, let's say, bottle feed at night, to maybe give yourself a little bit of a longer stretch, or so the baby sleeps a little bit better at night. Still make sure that you're pumping in those intervals. So you have to remember that with breastfeeding, your baby is telling your body how much to produce and when to produce. So if you are feeding a lot during the day and then at night you're not doing anything because you're giving a baby the bottle, it's just more likely that your milk might run out a little bit sooner, because you're telling your body that you don't need to produce enough, or that you don't need to produce that much. So I would say, especially in the beginning 3 months, try to continue. If you're gonna give a bottle at night, or during the day, anytime, just try to continue to pump with a schedule. If you guys have seen my breastfeeding journey video, then you know that Iris was actually bottle fed for the whole first month of her life because I couldn't get her to latch. But I was determined on having her drink breast milk. So although it was such a sacrifice for me, I'm so grateful that I did it. I would pump every 3 hours, day and night. Even at night, I would have to get out of my bed and sit at my desk, back when we were in the apartment, and pump for 10 minutes at a time. Go put that milk away, freeze it, do whatever. And I did that at least twice during the middle of the night up until, the next morning when I would have to go and pump again. And I was pumping every 3 hours, day and night, for a whole month. And I'm just grateful that I did that, because it actually allowed me to have an oversupply. It was allowing me to store a lot more milk. And once I did get her to latch on, even though I did have an oversupply, and it kind of took a while to regulate because she wasn't drinking, she was drinking way less than what I was producing. I know that it really helped me. And just keep in mind that if you're pumping, you want to try to follow your baby's schedule. So try to stick to at least every 3 hours. Tip number 4 is to make sure that you don't neglect yourself. So you have to remember, with breastfeeding, your body is now the vessel that is giving all of the life and the nutrients to your baby. In order to have your baby get the best nutrients possible, the best nutrition possible through your breast milk, you have to make sure you're doing the same for yourself. Okay, do not neglect yourself. Make sure that you're, continuing to take your prenatal vitamins. That is so, so important, because vitamins are important. That's how we get in all of our essential vitamins and nutrients that we don't receive in our daily foods, especially if we're not eating a whole variety, which I know many of us don't have the opportunity to do, especially as new moms. You're not eating a whole variety of foods in the beginning. So please make sure that you're taking your prenatal vitamins. That's going to help you so much. Make sure that you're drinking lots and lots of water, lots and lots of, liquids. I say water just because obviously juices and soups and stuff like that, they're not the healthiest because they have a lot of sugar, a lot of sodium. But add a little flavoring to your water, add some fruits to your water, give it some flavor, but stay hydrated. Make sure you continue to take your prenatals and try to eat at least 3 meals a day. Don't neglect yourself. You're gonna need the nutrients, and most importantly, you're gonna need the energy. Food is fuel, so please take care of yourself. You are a mom, but in order to be the best mom you can, you need to be good, you need to be healthy, you need to be energized. So take care of yourself. Tip number 5 is going to be, this kind of goes back into the first and second tip, but it is to attempt baby-led latching if you find that your baby doesn't latch well. So like I mentioned, it took Iris a whole entire month before I tried to latch her on again, because in the beginning it seemed like her first feeding was amazing. It was perfect, it was beautiful, which I hear a lot of moms say. And then as the days went on, by the time we got home, mind you, she was born on a Friday, I came home from the hospital on a Sunday, and my nipples were on fire. I would cry at the thought of putting her back on my nipples. It was just so painful for me. I just didn't want to do it. And it broke my heart because I felt like I was doing something wrong. I knew that she was hungry, but I didn't want to put her on. Like, it was just so hard. I had seen the lactation consultant at the hospital, and I couldn't get her to properly latch, which is why I decided to pump. After a month of pumping and realizing that I didn't want to do that anymore either, but I didn't want to give up on breastfeeding, I decided to try to relatch her. She was a little bit bigger. Her mouth was a little bit bigger. You know, so I did. And for the first few days, I was trying again, you know, the whole make sure the bottom lip is open, flanged mouth, make sure you stick your nipple in deep enough. Me trying to control the situation never worked. I could never get my nipple deep enough. She could never get a good enough latch. And then I stumbled across baby-led latching. And it's basically where you just place the baby on your chest, let them pick which breast they want to feed off of, and basically let them find their way to your nipple and latch on themselves. And guys, when I tell you that this was a game changer for me, I am so grateful that I found that one video out of the millions of videos that I was watching on how to get a baby to latch, because that is the only way that I was able to latch her on. I was laying on my couch and I just laid back like this. I was laying a little bit more. I put her on my chest with her head right in between my breasts, and I let her just find the nipple, and she latched on so perfectly. And I literally cried. I was like, wow, this is amazing. She had such a great feeding. She fed for about 15 minutes and was good for like at least an hour and a half. And then, you know, once we started doing that was when I experienced the whole cluster feeding and all of that. So my breastfeeding journey actually started after Iris was a month old, because I had to learn all of this after I actually got her to finally latch. So don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your baby. But like I've said from the beginning, trust yourself and trust your baby that you guys know will learn how to do it together. Find your own rhythm, and yeah, just do that. If you're having trouble latching, give your baby the opportunity to maybe latch themselves. Stop trying to control the situation so much, and maybe that'll work for you. And this last tip, I guess, is kind of like a bonus tip because I just thought about it right now. But it is to weigh your baby. I found that doing this once I started breastfeeding her exclusively and not giving her the bottle anymore, I found that this really gave me the confidence to know that I was doing good, especially through those cluster feeding stages and everything like that. So I didn't have a baby scale at home. You can always purchase one. I'll probably link one below that you can purchase on Amazon, but I never had one. I would just have a regular scale, and what I would do is I would undress myself and I would undress the baby. I would put her on my chest, I'd carry her, weigh myself, and then put her down and weigh myself again. So let's say if the scale said 140 with her on me, and then I put her down and I was at 132, I could determine, okay, a difference of about 8 pounds. She's weighing about 8 pounds. And then when I would go to the doctor, for the most part, it would be anywhere from about half a pound to a pound difference. So I knew that I was on kind of the right track when it came to, you know, the weight that I was getting at home. It was pretty accurate with the weight, you know, that was reflecting in the doctor's office. So every single week I would see the numbers going up anywhere from about half a pound to a pound. And again, that really did help me and give me the confidence in knowing that what I was doing was right, that she was getting enough, that she was gaining weight. And yeah, so these are the tips that helped me in my breastfeeding journey. I really hope that one thing I said in this video resonated with you and will potentially make your breastfeeding journey a little bit better, a little bit easier, even though it's not easy at all. I just want the biggest takeaway with this to be to trust your body and to trust your baby. You guys are both learning how to do this together. Be patient with each other. But if this is something that you really want to do, trust me, mama, you can. Just believe in yourself. A lot of times we get bad advice with good intentions, but just make sure that you're informed with what is normal and not normal with breastfeeding. You know, make sure again to not compare breastfeeding with bottle feeding, and to just try not to control the situation too much. Let your baby do what they were born to do. Our bodies were meant to do this. We are capable of this, and just go with the flow. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.